Thanks for joining us. So Dan here from RA Fischer, and today I am joined by Stefanie from School Street Dermatology, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Stefanie, if you could introduce yourself to us a little bit, what you do for School Street Dermatology, and then we'll kind of jump right into our interview.
So I'm a dermatology PA. I've been in dermatology for 16 years, but with School Street for the last year.
Okay.
So I basically do everything a dermatology PA does. Take care of
Nice.
patients, you know, base, general dermatology, basically. General medical dermatology is what I
I'm
do.
always amazed at the the wealth of knowledge and all the different skills that the PAs that we work with, because we do work with a lot of PAs on a regular basis. And it's right, you guys are just interacting with patients all the time, educating them, passing information along to the doctors. So in a lot of ways, you guys are kind of that first and that most important contact with the patient. You're almost the intermediary between everyone. And so I think your role that you guys play is critical, and we're always appreciative of the work that you guys do.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say I'm intermediary because most of my patients don't ever see the doctor. I take care of them, everything they need. So,
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So you're basically their doctor then. Very
yeah,
nice. So,
yeah.
you work for dermatology, so you see a lot of different skin conditions, but we're going to be talking about hyperhidrosis today. What's your experience working with hyperhidrosis patients? Do you see a lot of them over at School Street?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I see a lot. So it's kind of a topic that I'm passionate about because I feel like it really interferes with people's daily lives a lot, and people are so emotionally distraught about it, and if I can help them in any way, then that's my goal.
Right. And so, it's not even just a physical thing, which I think a lot of people hear of hyperhidrosis, aka excessive sweating, and they're just thinking in terms of the symptoms. And at first they're going, oh, sweating, that doesn't seem like such a big deal. But can you maybe
Right.
talk about and, reference any from your experience of ways that hyperhidrosis has impacted a patient's life beyond just the physical symptoms?
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, I can tell you that, I've had patients who were, medical assistants, and, while they're actually helping a patient, the sweat is dripping down their arm onto a patient. Like, that's like so mortifying. So,
Hmm.
it affects them emotionally. And some people have difficulties, forming relationships and going on dates and all this kind of thing. And, I had a 8-year-old girl who her hands were so sweaty, it was dangerous for her to compete in gymnastics because she couldn't
Right.
grip onto things and she was slipping, and it was that bad. So it really kind of affects the whole gamut of age ranges. Panda, sorry, my dog.
Okay.
um, so it affects people in many ways, but I've seen people, people are in tears over how bad it is.
Yeah.
It's
We've worked with a
yeah.
lot of patients over here too, and young patients, like you said. I've dealt with patients as young as 6 years old who were in, classically trained in different instruments and were having
Oh,
trouble then during recitals because hands are slipping. And I think this
exactly.
part of this condition is that it really, if it goes undiagnosed or untreated, it can really limit people's choices in life, whether it's
Yeah,
professions, whether it's relationships, whether it's just even hobbies and things. And when I talk to
definitely.
patients about, iontophoresis and trying to get them some help, that's really one of the things that we like to talk to them about, is this idea of what else could it open you up to? Because I've talked to patients that said, we're still in school, and they say, I'm passionate about this, but I can't do that because it requires me shaking hands with people, or I'd have to do this, and I can't do that because of these physical symptoms. And so I'm going to try to choose a career or choose, based around these symptoms. And I think
Right.
that's really sad. So, the work that you do in spreading awareness and first letting people know that it's okay to talk about this and that it is a very, treatable solution,
Definitely.
opens them up to a wealth of a whole new life almost.
So we have a poster on that we got from the makers of Qbrexza, saying that this is a a medical condition, and people. I get so many questions about it. Like, oh, really? They had
Mhm.
no idea. They had no idea there's something that could be done about it.
Right, because I think it goes often misdiagnosed early on. You're told, oh, it's just anxiety, or it's
Hmm.
just clammy hands. It runs in the family. Don't worry about it. And you just get used to
Right.
wiping off on your pants. It's amazing these little systems that people invent to get by with their symptoms. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you bring up a poster. I was going to ask you about when it comes to educational materials, resources, when you meet with a hyperhidrosis patient, where do you send them? What do you give them? What kind of materials are out there for people?
So I know Qbrexa makes brochures. I've Sometimes I print stuff off the internet from the Hyperhidrosis Society, or things along those lines. I've actually printed stuff from your website before for
Okay.
about the iontophoresis machines. When I thought, if someone is very generalized, then I think that's the perfect treatment.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely. And
just
so one of the other things too we'll do for you, Stefanie, because I realized I didn't realize we hadn't sent you one yet, but we have this new patient referral program package that has
awesome.
educational materials, everything from just general hyperhidrosis education to iontophoresis education, even down to things that are more beneficial for your office to know. For example, how do I hand off a patient to RA Fischer? How do I check this patient's insurance benefits for
Mm-hmm.
hyperhidrosis? Because as we all know, insurance, when it comes to hyperhidrosis, very niche, not a lot of coverage options. And
Right.
so working with a company like RA Fischer, because we have over 30 years of doing this and we have a lot of premier relationships with insurance companies, we know what they look for, we know their processes, we're able to take care of a lot of that for patients. And so part of that package that I'll send you today, actually, I'll get that in the mail to you today, Stefanie, is a little booklet for your office so you guys know exactly where to grab resources. Another question I get from a lot of PAs when they call in is, do you guys have an RX authorization form? Do you have insurance paperwork? And we do
Mm-hmm.
have all of that paperwork. There will be examples of that in the packet that I send you. And then in the future, if you ever need them, you can always go to our website. They're all on there. And I'd say most doctors' offices just save a copy, to their desktop or to a folder. And that way,
Right.
moving forward, they're always able to grab that again and again.
Great.
But in terms of, educational, is there anything that you wish you saw more of? Maybe videos, infographics, is it physical things? What is really hyperhidrosis education lacking right now?
Um, Maybe like a comprehensive brochure. I think I don't know about you, but me, I kind of get annoyed when I have to watch videos. Like I just want to read it myself and be done with it.
Okay.
Like I don't
Yep.
want to sit there for 10 minutes. Like maybe
Right.
a little ADHD on my part, but I would love to see a brochure that lists, all the topical treatments,
Okay.
all the oral treatments, all the, I guess you'd call iontophoresis mechanical treatments, like just so Botox, just so people are educated about all the options.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because, even when people have seen dermatologists for years, even decades, sometimes they'll call and say, hey, how come I've never heard of iontophoresis before? How come how
Right.
come I've never been introduced to this? And so in terms of iontophoresis, what has your experience been with patients either using iontophoresis to treat or just in terms of educating on them? Have you seen results, have a lot of patients who are using it?
So I find it's a hard sell for a lot of people, honestly. And maybe that's that girl I was talking about, the gymnastics girl. She
Mhm.
actually did end up buying a unit from you guys. This was years ago, and then when she got it, she didn't like the feeling of it.
Mhm.
So that, but
Right.
she was a kid. I mean, maybe now I'm sure she still has it. Maybe, I mean, now she's probably a teenager, more willing to tolerate it than at eight
Right. And
years
so
old.
now it's actually in terms of that feeling. So the technology has come pretty far, even within the past year. So one of the
Awesome.
features of the new device, the Fischer, is that it comes both with a direct current and a pulsed current setting. And what
Okay.
that allows patients to do is direct current has been kind of proven to be the more effective treatment delivery method for iontophoresis. But as you said, for patients with extreme skin sensitivities, maybe younger patients, it
Yeah.
can be a little bit of an odd feeling. So the pulsed current setting is a way for them to treat more comfortably, helps break up the flow of that electric current that's coming into the water. And so patients are able to tolerate higher treatment levels while still maintaining comfort. And so it's been
Great.
nice with our new machine over the past several months to be able to talk to patients who maybe have used either one of our traditional machines or maybe even another iontophoresis machine in the past. Maybe they
Yeah.
even had to DIY their own at some point, which is always very dangerous. And I always,
Yeah.
anytime you're dealing with pie tins and a car battery, probably not a good
Oh,
idea. I believe me,
yeah,
I
no.
have actually seen people try that. But
Yikes.
again, all these things, we don't want one negative experience to really turn someone off to it because the technology leaps and bounds. That's just one setting. even
That's
in terms of
awesome.
the way that the technology, the machine is built, the Fischer is now the only metal-free iontophoresis device. And what that means is traditionally patients with metal allergies or skin sensitivities couldn't even use the device, right? Because you're using metal electrodes traditionally to introduce the current into the water. And that's metal that's getting into your skin in terms of ions and things.
Okay.
Now, our electrodes are made of a silicon graphite material. So there's no more metal. No metal is released into the water during the treatment. And more importantly, those electrodes never corrode to become less effective. That's the
Great.
number one complaint that we got from patients previously, is that over time they would say, hey, these metal parts are becoming discolored, or my symptoms are coming back and I have to treat for longer or more frequently. And so with the new technology, there's no more replacement costs involved with that. They never lose their effectiveness because there's no more metal. And so hopefully for patients that, in any range of their experience with iontophoresis, we can try to get them into something and walk them through, because everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
Hyperhidrosis is a very finicky condition. And so it's not about having one solution that fits everyone. It's really about having something that can work and how can you personalize it around your symptoms. And so that's what we really like to do here
Right.
too, is every patient is assigned to a treatment specialist who walks them through these different options and how do we really get to know the patient on a deeper level. And so that's, yet another benefit of working with not just iontophoresis, but us specifically.
That sounds great because I know in the past it was not easy for people to get the machines. Just, it sounds like your process is much better now. But also, I have a very poor population, so they're not going to be really willing to just shell out $1,000 out of pocket. If there's a way to get insurances to pay you guys directly, I don't know if you deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do work with insurances directly. So basically from the patient's perspective, how it works is they meet with the doctor's office or PA like yourself sends us over the packet of paperwork that's available on our website, gives us all the information that we'll need, including the patient's insurance information.
Okay.
We're able to bring up their policy on an online portal, and we can check things like any exclusions, deductible information, and those
Yep.
things. And based on each individual policy, we may or may not be able to work with that insurance company. We work with a lot of the really big ones. So TRICARE, the military healthcare, is a really big partner for us. We work with United in the past. We work with Aetna. Everyone's on a case-by-case basis, again,
Yeah.
depending on those variables, but we do work for a lot of patients. We work directly with their insurance company. It's 100% covered for them. We do all of the
Awesome.
heavy lifting from filing the prior auth to filing the actual claim itself. And so for patients with insurance, even if you're just curious, I always invite people, reach out to us, give us a call, chat with one of our treatment specialists on the website, because you
Hmm.
never know what benefits you may or may not have.
Okay.
And as the year goes along, when you've met your deductibles, that's when we really see a higher response from patients, or more patients reaching back out to us because
Yeah.
they've met their deductibles. And oftentimes that was the only barrier to getting them coverage for the iontophoresis device. And so as soon as that deductible's out of the way, we're able to work with more patients' policies and get it 100% covered. But even if we're not able to work with a patient's insurance company, we have plenty of resources and we educate them on how to go out of pocket and then seek reimbursement. So we have a guide that walks them through that process. And then lastly, for patients who, maybe they don't even have the reimbursement coverage, we do have monthly payment plans that we can
Okay.
offer them, that they can help set up, and they can spread out those out-of-pocket costs over 3, 6, or even 12 months.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah. And so my last question for you today is, I wanted to see what's kind of in your opinion, the biggest misconception when it comes to hyperhidrosis. We've talked about a couple of different things, but what's your biggest takeaway from, if there's someone listening that is maybe either struggling with sweating, or if maybe there's a doctor who knows a patient or something, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
So I think a big misconception is that there's nothing that can be done for it,
Right.
or that it's hygiene related, things like that. So, um, so those are two big myths, I would say.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we always encourage people to not give up. I've dealt
Right.
with so many patients that had tried the full gamut of everything, and nothing had worked. And then it's not until that they either stumbled across us on Google, or even recently we've had patients that say, hey, my younger brother or sister saw you on TikTok, and what is this thing? I've never heard of it before. And so it's it's nice to engage people like that on a new basis. And so we always tell patients, don't give up hope. Iontophoresis is 91% successful for patients. So for
That's
most
huge.
people we work with, it's finally the thing that works for them after they had tried everything else and failed to see results. And they were about to give up when suddenly it's just sometimes a happy accident, a new dermatologist, new insurance even. Because if you change insurances from either last year to this year, maybe now you have those coverage options and you didn't know about it
Right.
before.
Right. So our office actually used to have a unit
Okay.
that patients would come in and do it, and then someone lent a patient it to take home, and they never returned it.
Well, that's a
So
sign that the patient really likes it when you give it to them to try and they just keep it. So for anyone looking for a testimonial, that would be the closest thing that I could say of of when
yeah,
people get it, they absolutely love it.
but I don't know if our office would be willing to get a unit again. I'm not sure about that, but I know
Yeah,
they have in the
it's
past.
hit or, so we do work with dermatologists' office who have them in clinic, because
Hmm.
it's often a nice way to at least tangibly show the patient, introduce them to the idea of it, have them
Yeah.
do a couple of treatments just to make sure it works for them. Now, most patients start to see results with iontophoresis within the first 2 weeks. So that's why for some doctors' offices, it's difficult to have a patient come back, within that period of time, as many times as it would need. But ultimately, when patients have an iontophoresis device at home, when they reach what we call their maintenance schedule, they really only have to use the device on an as needed basis.
Right.
And most people I work with, it's like once every 2 to 4 weeks that they end up
Wow.
using it. And they fall into a schedule where they're like, hey, Dan, I've been using the same device for 20 plus years. Every other Saturday, I just sit down, I pop on my favorite show on Netflix, and I treat. And with the new device, you can even do hands and feet simultaneously. So you go from a
Oh,
40-minute treatment where you had to do hands and feet separately with traditional devices to now with the Fischer, both hands in one tray, both feet in the other, and you're doing a flat 20-minute treatment. And so it's really
cool.
ultimately not a time-consuming thing for patients, which helps fit into their schedule very nicely and is why it's so preferred for people who are busy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, do you guys have I think you do, I think in the past something for the face and for the underarms?
So we do have underarm attachments, and the benefit of two are new electrodes, as I mentioned, with the silicone graphite. They're actually a flexible material, so they contour to that underarm region a lot more effectively to deliver a more consistent treatment. It's
Mhm.
interesting you bring up the craniofacial attachment. While we don't have one here at RA Fisher, there is a third-party company that makes an attachment that specifically integrates with our device. So for anyone
Cool.
struggling with facial sweating or craniofacial symptoms, they can come to us. They can get what's called we have the Fischer underarms package, which comes with those underarm attachments. Then they can get that third party attachment from the other company, it plugs right in, and they would wear the mask during the treatment, and they would have one underarm attachment under their arm to complete the circuit so that the treatment can work. And then
Gotcha.
same regimen they would treat for the 20 minutes.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. And so, Stefanie, thank you so much for joining me today. I think we even got into more than I was originally anticipating. And so, thanks for sharing your insights. I'll definitely get that PRP package sent out to you today so that you
Great.
guys can have some things for your clinics. And as always, if there's anything that you guys need, anything your patients need, whether it's just general questions, we're available in a lot of different ways: email, chat on the website. We even text with patients back and forth through our system. So lots of
Awesome.
different ways, and we're always here for you. All right.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. All right. You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.